What is up, everybody? Good morning and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Mythic Plus. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of a rundown in our Windrunner Spire here. I just have this recording. It's going to be a pretty chill key. We have some absolute blasters in the key. There's my talent setup and then my item level and my gear there. I know I didn't show that on the screen for that long, but you can always pause the video and take a look if you're curious. Still have a lot of gear upgrades to go, but being able to make sure that 10s are going to be as easy as humanly possible. 10s are going to be no big deal. I will start uploading some higher key content as well, you know, after the first week and that sort of stuff, just because we're still farming some gear on these initial weeks, getting vaults, and I think I'm using 2 set in this video as well. So I definitely don't even have a full set of tier, which will help dramatically. But I go ahead and drop the silent sigil on the steward just so that she follows me a little bit over when I'm gathering the back half of this pull. Want to make sure that she ends up in the middle there so I can get everything easily on top of her. Everyone blasts with lust and we take out that pull, no problem at all. And then we'll go ahead and go into this steward pull, make sure we get all these groundskeepers, because these groundskeepers are truly free count. I mean, there's really no reason not to do those. So we're just going to kite the steward down the hall right here and try and make that groundskeeper pull a little bit more efficient because they don't do a whole lot. I plant here just to make sure that I can stabilize because I am taking a little bit more damage and I don't have meta since I did use it on first pull. I jump over to this Windrunner and kick it over here just to make sure that I live, pop my Hellstone, get a meta proc, and then we are good to go. So we'll go ahead and use Soul Bomb, and now we are pretty much unkillable. We got some meteors coming down, doing some good damage. And then we got the Emissary stacked on top of the Windbreaker, break her shield, use our meta proc. And with these meta procs and all the meteors here, we're just doing a ton of damage and we're pretty much unkillable, especially in meta. Unfortunately, got the Windrunner kicked over here a little bit late, so she's going to have a little bit more health than the rest of the pack, but that is a-okay. These 4 guys right here, I know people like to kind of plant at the top of the stairs. I've seen a lot of tanks do that for some reason. Just get down here and get into this bigger open room. It's a lot easier to not tank on the stairs, tank on that spiral, and then you can get a whole lot of cleave onto this flesh behemoth because he does have an absolute ridiculous amount of health. So he's going to be something you want to make sure that you're hitting other stuff with him because he can live pretty much an entire pack. As you can see, everything's about half HP and he's at about a quarter. So we want to make sure that we're getting a lot of value and making sure that everyone is able to hit at least, 5 mobs at a time, something like that. And so we'll just take out the rest of this pull. And once things start to die over here, once we get a few more things down, I see the Flesh Behemoth is about 50% health. Then we'll go ahead and we'll grab this Windrunner, and then we'll end up getting the last 2 guys on the side there, making sure that we have plenty of targets to cleave. We've got this Void Emissary, the Windrunner here, and we can get everything nice and cleaved down. We have that verse buff, so we're not worried about dying at this point as well. Go ahead and make sure that I get these Reavers on me. They're really just going to be hitting the tank here. And as you can see, we pretty much had that Flesh Behemoth dying the entire time. He's just being a little bit annoying, spewing the poison all over the ground and all that, but once he dies, this pull goes down very quickly, and we're already going into the first boss. And something else I've seen a lot of tanks do this season is just kind of refuse to plant. So I'll be trying to plant a little bit more in this dungeon just so you guys can see. It's been kind of a trying to build the habit, I guess. Kiting backwards doesn't always mean that you're a little more durable. In some cases it can be just because you're taking less melee hits. But sometimes you want to plant just so that the melee and everyone else is able to stand in those AoE, stand in the earthquakes, blizzards, that sort of thing. Just make sure that you are doing everything you can to make sure your DPS can help you out. We're going to get a nice meta proc here, which is going to let us soak up that tank buster here. And I probably should have positioned the bosses a little bit better here because we don't have to worry about these dark entities because this hunter is going to be struggling to get some hits in on the boss. And then right here you can see I actually stack my puddle on top of the existing puddle, and I just kind of make a little loop around the boss. Good way to conserve space too. Never really run out of space on this fight, but if you end up needing it, it's always a good thing to do. Get a little bit nervous here because that heaving yank has to go right past that pillar, but it is going to end up working, so we yank the boss right there. And I just like to tank them you kind of tank these guys wherever, but in this general area is fine. I'm going to keep it close to the wall just so that I can easily spin around here, draw my pool on the wall, pop Feldev, and then pop back over and we can save a lot of space here, moving out just a little bit just to make sure that our melee have kind of a full 360. They're able to do damage from a couple different sides of the boss here. So we'll go ahead and just keep on hitting this guy, and the bosses are pretty close to dead here. Pretty even on HP as well. I think the conventional wisdom is if you are going to kill one of them first, you definitely want to make sure it's the Banshee first, because if she gets her cast off, you're pretty much just insta-dead if she doesn't die within 10 seconds or so. So you always want to make sure that that debilitating shriek is able to get kicked. If not, you are just uber screwed. So we get the nice yank over there, and now the bosses aren't going to do any notable mechanics here. So even if she dies a little bit before latch, he's not going to do too much damage here. And we are good to go. So it is going to take people quite a bit, just that poison, but get this emissary, start getting our cooldowns back, and I don't believe we can take this portal while in combat, so we just have to commit to killing this emissary. We'll take the portal back up, and then we'll head on over to Ember Dawn. Off to a pretty good start, and I do actually have a little brain fart later in this dungeon. I end up thinking that we're low on forces, and I just completely forget a pack. So you will see me type in chat saying I forgot something. Should have just locked in a little bit more there, but that is a-okay. Once again, these groundskeepers are pretty much free count. They don't do hardly anything, so we'll get 2 stewards, we'll get these hatchlings, and I actually like to drag everything into this room just so we can line of sight the stewards a little bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and fell dev and meta, and then we'll go ahead and just be pretty much immortal while we stabilize on this pull, while everything kind of comes into the room here. And as you can see, we have a nice little gather here. I'm going to pop darkness just because everyone's, taking a little bit of damage here. I want to make sure everyone stays a little bit safer, including myself. Once we stabilize, everything's going to get pretty easily melted here. The only really dangerous parts are the Dragon Hawks, and there's only one Dragon Hawk there, just the stewards with the cast, so as long as you drop a couple stops there, use your kicks, should be all good. We'll pop Immo Aura just to pull those spiderlings, and then we'll get this whole room together right here, and then we'll also pull the links into this room as well. Go ahead and pop Fell Dev just to make sure we can stabilize. We're going to pop Immo Aura, Soul Bomb. Going to be rocking a pretty hefty shield after generating all those fragments, and then we can just soul cleave it out. Going to be pretty much immortal while we are doing that. I'm actually going to pop a health stone though, just in that little downtime before I get my immolation aura back. And now we have the verse buff and the cooldown reduction, so we are in a pretty good spot. This is a little bit of a sketchy pull. I probably wouldn't do the links on a higher key necessarily, unless you have a group that is going to absolutely blast. But it didn't actually seem that bad after I did it here. Don't need any of the count over on that other side here, and I'm trying to run over these reeds because I can't quite remember where these little mushroom guys spawn. So we do get a little, some of them back there. If you step on those weeds on the side, we'll get these groundkeepers, get these. I think I actually do drop threat here, or something happens right up ahead and someone does end up dying because I'm not being careful. But these lashings are just make for a lot of fun, so we'll go ahead and grab as many of those as humanly possible. Some classes can get some good funnel damage, some good AoE kind of assist damage with stuff, so always good to get as many of those as you can. It's not going to cost you any time because, as you can see, there's all these elite mobs that are going to live a lot longer. And then I actually do make a mistake here because I do pull without like Immo Aura or Fell Dev. So these lashlings spawn in the back, and I don't actually tag a couple of them, and they walk over and they just start meleeing our warlock here, and he dies. So we end up getting Fell Dev a little bit too late here, and this was just sloppy. Wouldn't have recommended that. I do say my bad in the chat because that was in fact my bad. A-okay, we're still going to have quite a bit of damage here. And these Dragon Hawks are just going to be spitting at folks, which is a little bit annoying. Does a little bit of damage, so definitely be careful of that. But all is well that ends well. We still make it through the pull. So if you're a Demon Hunter, just make sure you have something to lasso these mobs a little bit, because they can just kind of start going towards people and doing that sort of thing. So Territorial Dragon Hawks are about to go down, so I jump over to the boss just to trigger the RP, because I know we still have to res the person there. So we'll go ahead and trigger the RP, make sure the boss is ready for him when he respawns. I go over just to make sure the evoker is going to res him, and then we have Ember Dawn waiting for us with 45 seconds left on Bloodlust. little bit of downtime here, but we're very, very good on time. We got 70% count, almost done with the dungeon pretty much here. And the only thing, I don't really know anything special to say about tanking Emberdawn. You just kind of sit here and whack him. Not going to be anything too crazy as far as commentary on this one. As you can see, the DPS are dropping their fires out towards the side of the room, which is a great place for those to be. Obviously spinning around when he does this Burning Gale. And the only thing you really need to watch out for is the, I think it's like the Flaming Beak. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's just a little bit of a tank buster. I actually end up getting stunned here by that little fire thing, which is a little bit awkward, but boss is going down pretty quick. We actually do have Lust at the ready as well. This would have been a little bit of a sus place to use it. I typically don't like lusting bosses when they're at about half HP, just because you feel like you don't get a whole lot of value out of it. But we do get the Emissary down, getting our cooldowns back. And as you can see, again, the range going and dropping their pools nicely, so we have pretty much the entire room to work with here. And again, just dodging that Burning Gale. There's a lot of downtime as a tank. You're not going to be needing cooldowns a whole lot on this fight. You get kind of like one tank buster and then an intermission phase, so your cooldowns will usually come back pretty quickly, especially if you're on this affix where you get that extra cooldown reduction. But we're going to get the boss the last few percent here. Boss is going to die at 5%, which is also good to know. Go ahead and pop our meta, trigger some meteors, and that will take him out. All right, we'll wait for this harp to pop down, hit the soul conduit, and then the next pull, I typically always will do this all together. There's really no reason not to. I haven't had any big issues with this pull, and I do try a kind of a weird line of sight thing here, so don't necessarily line of sight the way that I do. I would ordinarily line of sight around that first little pillar right there, but I tried this other one towards the end, and I don't know what I'm thinking here, and nothing really moves, and I realized that I kind of goofed up. So I try and salvage it by pulling over to these archers just so that as many things as possible are on top of these unmovable ranged mobs. So definitely wouldn't recommend going around that little pillar to my right. I would use the one just that's a little over to my left, because as you can see, that that other archer that's about to come around the corner, he's going to kind of plant over there, which is where, you know, we would like to be hitting all these mobs. But I try and keep everything pretty stationary just so that people can hit the mobs and not have to worry about them moving too much. And then once a couple of the archers get low on HP, we do have an Affliction Warlock, and the Demon Hunter is able to do a little bit of damage to those, so she ends up dying, and then we'll go ahead and finish off these Phalanx Breakers as well. If you're a caster, just make sure that you are not casting during that disrupt, because you will lose all of your damage here, and this pull will just kind of live forever. We'll go ahead and go make our way down the stairs, and this guy takes forever to actually do the RP, so I aggro him, and then he gets replaced by these grunts, so it slows me down just a little bit here. We'll grab pretty much everything in this room, because this is going to be pretty safe. A lot of these marauders are just going to hit me, and then I aggro these axe throwers, make sure I have full threat on everything here, and then we'll kite over to the axe throwers, because they are a pain to move. They're going to be very, very difficult to move. Always bring everything over to these axe throwers. Don't try and bring the axe throwers to you. And then the hunter asks if we want to lust this boss or next. Honestly, last boss in this dungeon is kind of free. There's really no reason to lust it. It'll kind of die as long as you're doing the fight correctly, as long as no one gets hit by the giant wave. So I'm like, you know what? This one. I think this one is going to be a little bit better. And this is the part where I have a little bit of a brain fart, and I'm like, how are we so low on count? I don't understand. We're only at 95, and I think we're done with count. So I go ahead and I grab these, the Marauder and the Grunt over here, and then I'm like, this cannot possibly be 6% as well. I do say this one, acknowledging the boss, and this is just like embarrassing. I was thinking about not uploading this, but this does happen in dungeons, so you know what? Why not be transparent? It is what it is. And this is like the most inefficient pull ever. We're doing 4 mobs in the middle of nowhere with Lust up. And I think the boss is up behind me as well, or I thought it was in this moment. So even if I was doing this, I could have just... And I start jumping all the way back out here to go grab these grunts and the axe throwers as well, which is just ridiculous. and then I see he has boss trash, and I run over here, and I'm like, yep, there's the trash that I missed. So we do a little bit of extra count here, but it is a-okay. We're going to be more than fine. We got plenty of damage, plenty of time on here. The only thing that's going to be a little bit strange is the axe thrower that's sitting out there in Narnia. That is going to be kind of annoying just to deal with, because he'll be kind of sitting over there doing his own thing. Go ahead and make sure this emissary goes down, and everyone's going to get that verse buff. So this pull will be nice, especially because that Mystic is going to Bloodlust. Everything's going to do a little bit more damage here, but we got that verse, so we'll be good. And then we know the boss is going to spawn, so I start dragging everything over to this axe thrower, everything remaining, so we can get him a little bit lower before the boss spawns. And once that last Marauder spawns, I look to the middle. Boss is going to spawn. We'll drag him over to this axe thrower so we can get some 2-target cleave here right as the fight starts. And the axe thrower isn't going to give us too much problem because he is just dead. This boss, a little bit annoying here. That's why I kind of wanted to make this guy go faster, because he's pretty hard to make go fast. We see a lot of circles here, so we all just stack up a little away from the boss. Just make sure you pick a spot and plant. Hard commit to those circles. I see a lot of people moving around last second. Just plant, even if you can't hit for a couple seconds. I know it's a little bit inefficient, but it's better than getting feared. So stack on top of each other. That's how you don't get feared there. Then we'll get our first Rallying Bellow. Got him to 57%, not too bad. And I do have Immolation Aura active, so I'm going to be able to get aggro. And as we've learned from the rest of this key, we're going to bring everything over to the Axe Throwers, because the Axe Throwers are going to be the hardest thing to move in this pack. Even the Mystics you can kind of kick and they'll move a little bit in between casts, but the Axe Throwers will just sit there and they will spam throw axe at you. So you can't really do a whole lot with them. Always bring everything to the Axe Throwers all the time. And then the rest of this fight is going to be kind of rinse and repeat. He doesn't really do any damage to tanks. I've never had an issue living like the tank mechanic at all. Just kind of avoid the reckless leaps. And then we'll get another Rallying Bellow. And I do have Immolation Aura, so I'm going to be able to get everything nice and gathered here. Jump over to kick the Mystic, and then we'll try and drag everything again back over to the Axe Thrower, because he's just going to be planted over here. As you can see, everything goes down pretty quickly. Not going to be a whole lot of issues dealing with the adds on that fight. On this fight, I should say. And he is going to rampage, and I'm just going to eat that up. The Evoker is also defensiving me, so taking even less damage from an already kind of wimpy tank buster here. And then we get a nice plant spot right under the boss, so everyone's going to be able to just sit here, whack the emissary, and get that boss dead. I believe, again, we can't take the portal while we're in combat, so we do have to finish up this Voidbound emissary, which is also nice because we'll get some cooldowns back. We'll get this this buff taken away before we get to the Restless Heart here. And for some reason, I actually just learned this the other day, that you can use the... you can actually clear the ads on this boss a little bit, so I'll try and point it out when it does happen, because I do believe we do do that as well. But this boss is going to be pretty simple, so we'll go ahead and pull her. Just take our time with this one. Doesn't do anything super tank worthy here, nothing that's going to hit too hard. Obviously just dodge the circles here. You can also clear your debuff by stepping on one of these arrows, so if you need to do that on higher keys, if your healer's struggling to heal the rot damage, it does take relatively hard, and it kind of stacks up, so if you want to make it easier on them, you can always go ahead and soak one of those arrows, just get knocked up here, and lose that debuff. Totally up to you. Haven't seen a whole lot of people do it until they get 2 stacks. We'll wait here, and then we'll dive down. And then we'll just keep thwacking away. So we do have these ads. As you can see, they're these Night Elf little storm homies, Night Elves, Blood Elves, whatever you want to call them. And I believe the next mechanic is how you're going to clear them. So I think that should come out in just a second here. We're going to get a nice little Tempest Slash here, so I'll get knocked back. And this mechanic, so this one with all the blue circles, this is how you clear those stormy spots on the floor. As you can see, our group is clearing all the ads. So now we have a ton more space on the floor, just the arrows are going to be in our way here. And this boss just kind of goes down. There's not really anything else to say here. Those are all the mechanics. Also, something I would note is that if you get that fixate on you where she's just blasting you with arrows, always just plant. Just pick a direction, let people kind of move away from you, unless you're obviously standing on top of people. You can pre-spread for it, always a good idea. But I see people try and kite and they end up just smoking people with it. Just go ahead and plant. There's no shame in planting with it and letting people move away from you. Obviously, you want to be considerate of people's damage and people, in cooldown windows that may not want to move, but you obviously don't want to snipe people with it and make a situation worse than it is. But we'll go ahead and finish this boss off with no big issues. Again, thank you everyone for watching. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And we will just finish off this boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.